I'd like to start by pointing out the entire board's violation of policy BE local board meetings, specifically the abuse of consent agenda. Consent agenda shall include items of a routine and/or recurring nature grouped together under one action item. Will the board publicly explain precisely what is routine about transferring the authority to purchase property to the superintendent? You all violated board policy, past precedent, and public trust by concealing this item in consent agenda. Furthermore, you did not make the resolution public until weeks later. A simple theme, or a similar theme of concealment can be found on today's consent agenda with item 7.24, approval of the board operating protocols. This is another break from precedent as the current board quietly adds this non-routine item to the consent agenda, which in prior years was part of discussion and action. No discussion, no questions, no amendments. How can all 7 trustees agree before ever looking at the documents? If this item is on the consent agenda, 4 of the 7 trustees did not see this document until it was already on the consent agenda. I am calling on the board to move item 7.24 to the discussion and action section of the meeting. Consent agenda item 7.19 is an amendment that vaguely describes changes to the employee compensation plan. This has a $4.3 million budget impact. I find that number very interesting, seeing how at the July 18th special called meeting, the district established a $3 million budget shortfall to provide safety and security to all campuses as required by House Bill 3. This has me wondering what you spent 3 hours in closed session talking about. The board can find funds to pay an additional $4.3 million for unknown employees' compensation, yet can't find funds to meet House Bill 3's requirements for armed security on every campus by the first day of school. The board has remained silent on this issue. Publicly, you have no questions, no discussion, no deliberation. You have stalled and waited until the last minute to address student safety and security needs. So I am here tonight asking each board member to support House Bill 3 and state their commitment to providing armed security to all campuses. If you are silent on this, I will assume you do not support these measures and may be working to undermine the successful implementation of these state-required safety and security measures. Lastly, consent agenda item 7.22, approval of the updated student code of conduct that diminishes parental rights and endangers students. This update allows the district to interrogate your child without prior notice to parents or guardians. If you approve of this, you are voting to further degrade parental rights in public education. Thank you for your time.
Three hours later.
All right, I want to address one thing that we heard during the public comment session earlier this evening, the implication that Plano ISD is not planned or budgeted for House Bill 3, and that we have somehow neglected this important piece of legislation. I think we're hearing and seeing, and we know that we have spent many, many hours deliberating this. I think it's important to provide our community with accurate information regarding our proactive approach to security in close partnership with our local police departments. Plano ISD has been actively working with solutions to meet the requirements of the new law since its enactment. House Bill 3 was signed into law on June 14th. And in order to ensure transparency and collaboration, we hosted a special called meeting last month in July. And during that meeting, we had in-depth conversations, as you mentioned, with Plano PD as we work to evaluate the most effective way to meet the requirement of this new legislation. And we have also met and collaborated with Richardson, Murphy, Allen, Dallas, and Plano to discuss and plan our implementation. The resolution that we are considering tonight will enable Plano ISD to develop and implement an alternative program on these campuses that do not currently have school resource officers. For our district and our local police departments, the most pressing challenge is timing for the implementation in regard to the availability of police officers, as well as the time it would take to train new officers to fulfill this requirement with an expanded SRO program. So that's just not a possibility. The hiring and training cycle for each new officer is approximately 18 months to fill the estimated 50 required positions with SROs. Could take up to 2 to 4 years We anticipate the implementation of the MARC program being considered tonight will allow us to meet the requirements of the new law in a more timely manner. As we work toward fully implementing and staffing the school MARC program, we want to assure the community that we will continue to provide safety and security services in partnership with our municipalities and in accordance with existing shared agreements. Our district is fortunate to have close working relationship with the police departments that protect and serve our 73 schools across 5 cities, Plano, Richardson, Murphy, Dallas, and Allen. These departments have always been and will continue to be our partners in school safety. Sorry, my fingers are dry. Regarding funding, House Bill 3 will provide an additional $15,000 per campus and an increase in the safety allotment of only 28 cents per average daily attendance, and that will result in an estimated $1.1 million gain for Plano ISD. However, the cost of hiring, as we heard earlier, and maintaining the security officers will be an additional expense of approximately $4.1 million to Plano ISD, which was approved as a contingency in tonight's consent agenda. Despite the police workforce shortages and budgetary challenges, Plano ISD and our local municipalities remain committed to collectively providing a safe and secure learning environment for all of our students and staff. And I echo all of the comments that have been said here at the table, thanking our administration for this incredible work that you've done to get us where we are since this law was signed into action on June 14th. And so we will await more guidance from the state, but at this point, this is what we know. We're working and doing the best we can with what we know at the time.
3 hours later.